Thank you very much for the kind introduction. It's great to be back in Athens. Always a pleasure to visit here. It's been a couple of years for me, but I have the pleasure today to, introduce what we are currently working on. So it's basically an outlook beyond the portfolio that we're currently already offering in terms of CT. But before I start, a couple of words about the company itself. So United Imaging Healthcare basically is a universal provider, manufacturer for healthcare devices. So we only exist now for 14 years, roughly. So we're a very young company, originally out of China. But we grew into, a global company, as you will see, with, for CT at least, installations in over 40 countries right now. And our vision is really be an innovator in healthcare. So leading healthcare innovation is our vision. And our mission is to bring equal healthcare to all. And this, of course, doesn't mean cheap. Let me be that blunt. It means to bring high quality to all regions, to all markets in terms of medical devices that really add clinical value for your patients. As I said, we have a rather short history so far, but at a great pace, I think we arrived at impressive numbers. So at the moment, globally, we have roughly 12,000 employees. And this is our particular strength, I think. Almost 50% of the employees work in R&D. So the pace, also from my perspective, having joined the company only recently, is really unbelievable. So the dynamics and the pace, how we develop new things from my perspective, is really great. 14,000 customers worldwide for CT, I mentioned, in over 40 countries, and in general over 70 countries. We have installed products so far, over 32,000 installed units globally. So in the past 14 years, we grew basically our installed base from 0 to now 32,000 installed units. And in 2022, we were actually the biggest IPO at the Shanghai Stock Exchange, with today a market value of the company of over $20 billion. So this is an overview of where we actually have activities currently. We have R&D, of course, mainly in China, but also in the US and also in Europe. We have manufacturing in China and the US, and we have legal entities all around the globe, as you can see. This is a snapshot of our portfolio. So really, it's a comprehensive medical imaging portfolio. We recently at RSNA also introduced ultrasound portfolio. So we also now have a comprehensive ultrasound portfolio that we cannot sell everywhere yet. So we don't have CE label yet. But at the pace we're working on, and from previous experience, we expect to get CE label for these products that are currently only available in China very soon. So this in general about the company. Now let's switch gears a little bit and get to the actual topic, my actual topic, CT. This is our CT portfolio. So we cover currently already the whole spectrum of CTs, from entry-level CT, typically 2 centimeter detector width, 0.8 seconds rotation speed, 50 kW generator, over mid-range CTs. And we're compared to competitive products, always in terms of hardware already, a little bit better. So our typical mid-range system has 0.3 seconds rotation speed, for example, can be as an option equipped with a 100 kW generator. So mid-range CT systems up to high-end CT systems. In CT, this currently means, and we so far went the single source route, so wider detectors. So our currently available premium CT is a 16 centimeter detector CT, 82 centimeter bore size, 100 kW generator, 0.25 seconds rotation speed. So concerning hardware, this is already cutting edge, what we can offer today. And of course, some systems in between, total of 9 CE marked CT products that cover this whole spectrum for CT. We've come a long way, so only 14 years with significant milestones, always having, and I mentioned this number already, always keeping AI in mind. So we really grew from scratch with AI in our DNA. So all problems on this way were really solved also by AI experts, and we use AI in every area where it makes sense, from patient preparation through patient scanning during the actual scan, image reconstruction across the portfolio. We use deep learning, AI reconstruction to really get most out of the measured data. And of course, also for post-processing, to make post-processing as automized and as robust and repeatable as possible. Again, I don't have the time to get into the details. You will some examples later, especially with respect to AI-based CT image reconstruction. But now let's look into the future, what we're currently working on. We launched the system 5 weeks ago in China. We have 4 installations so far in China. It's called CTEurope. And as you probably know, I mean, 15 years ago, roughly, the paths split. There was one manufacturer for high-end CT that went the dual source route. So basically having 2 sources and 2 detectors in one gantry, mainly to improve temporal resolution for cardiac imaging, but also scan speed in general, and to do excellent spectral imaging, because tube spectra can be optimized individually. And this is always a good approach to get the best possible spectral information out of a CT scanner. And the other route was wider detectors in order to be able to cover the whole organ, especially the heart, within one rotation. Or, I mean, for CT single source, you always need half a rotation at least. So 1 beat cardiac imaging. So you can cover the whole heart within 1 cardiac heartbeat. Both approaches have their advantages, right? But so far, nobody has managed really to combine these 2 approaches again. So 1 beat cardiac imaging with highest temporal resolution in plane. And this is what we've been working on now for a couple of years. So to combine these 2 approaches again, these 2 paths that split 15 years ago. So on the one hand, the advantages of dual source CT and the advantages of wide area detector CT. Because, I mean, the driving force behind CT development of the past 30 years, I would say, were these 4 pillars. So in the end, it's spatial resolution, it's temporal resolution, it's whole organ coverage that brings a lot of advantages when it comes to perfusion and, of course, also the robustness of diagnostic imaging. Plus, what I mentioned, really add this other dimension of obtaining spectral and functional information with CT through the acquisition of dual energy data. And I mean, really, this new machine with the two 16-centimeter detectors and two X-ray tubes takes it to the limit. Concerning all of these four pillars that I just showed you, really combining all the advantages of previous generations of CT scanners. And it was not easy. I mean, this movie a little bit shows that already fitting all these components, two large detectors, two tubes, with the supporting components, such as the generator and cooling system in one gantry, is a major task with respect to mechanical engineering. So it's a really great engineering challenge that we solved with this system. We even increased the rotation speed of the complete system again from 0.25 seconds rotation time for our current premium systems to now 0.239 seconds rotation time. And that leads to a physical temporal resolution of 63 milliseconds, especially for cardiac CT. But you will see also for other dynamic studies that become possible now. Now, again, dual source has been great in the past, but it always had limited coverage, which has disadvantages because you have to stitch together your heart or your organ from several heartbeats, from several scans, and that can definitely lead to inconsistencies and reduce the robustness of such a scan. And now that you can basically acquire the whole organ always in a quarter of rotation with this dual source system, really allows us to come up with new ideas concerning dynamic imaging, and not only the heart. I mean, you see a couple of examples that we obtained from these first four installations that we currently have. So if you think about free breathing CT and you get dynamic data out of that, swallowing motion can be depicted with such a system. In musculoskeletal, you can basically depict the joint movement if you're able to cover such a significant area with two detectors at the same time, and at the same time improve also the temporal resolution of your scan. So each phase will really be sharp when you use a system like that. But of course, it's specifically targeted also at cardiac CT, and we adapted all the technologies we have, AI-based technologies, also for this new dual source system. I don't have, unfortunately, the time to go into the details, but I let the movies and the images speak for themselves. So this is acquired basically during one heartbeat, and you get full dynamic data and all 3D or now 4D views of the moving organ here in perfect quality. Another example here for TAVR planning. So far, it's not standard to use dynamic information for TAVR planning. This might change. I think you can appreciate the extra information that you get. But of course, all this is still works in progress because we have still limited experience how to use this data and what it really can add clinically. Another example here of a mitral valve prolapse, just to show you compared to ultrasound. And of course, it's a much less invasive procedure doing just a CT, and it definitely can give you similar information, if not more. One motion abnormalities here in the form of movies or polar maps for the complete heart, data only acquired during one heartbeat, basically. Another nice example, even though it's only a 2D cut, but I think it gives a nice impression how sharp the images are actually using this high temporal resolution in every heart phase, right? If you focus here on the right coronary artery, for example. You suddenly can do post-processing on more than just one or the best phase of the cardiac cycle. So here a case where we did a CT FFR study basically in different heart phases to study how the flow changes throughout the cardiac cycle. And by the way, we're the only company currently that have a CE-labeled CT FFR solution that is commercially available in Europe. So you can basically do on-site in 2 minutes a full CT FFR evaluation like this on your workstation, on your own workstation, just paying once for the license, basically for the workstation. Plaque composition also changes throughout the heart cycle. Again, this is also an idea basically to look at how plaque might change and what the prognostic value of all this is. We need to see, but now it suddenly becomes possible to get, again, high quality diagnostic data throughout the heart cycle from every heart phase. Another TAVR example here as a follow-up study that can nicely show how we also use AI-based metal artifact correction with this artificial valve here. Other ideas, pulsation of aneurysms here in this case, or what I already mentioned, basically free breathing scan. And in all breathing phases, you get really sharp images because of the high temporal resolution of the system. Another case more in detail here, swallowing motion. The movie unfortunately doesn't run. We also managed to develop a completely new detector. It's not a photon counting detector yet, but the main promise, currently published promise of photon counting is increasing spatial resolution significantly, right, through thinner slices. So standard, I would say, today on conventional detectors is 0.5, 0.6 millimeter thinnest slice thickness. Photon counting typically can deliver 0.2 millimeters, but not for such a volume, right? You always have to keep that in mind. Here we're talking about always 16 centimeter coverage for all the data that I will show you. So, and here with this newly developed detector, we have a slice thickness of 0.33. So we're getting close to photon counting, even though we're not there yet. But for the full detector coverage of 16 centimeters. And with that, you can generate results like that. Here, typical image quality on a conventional detector, always on the left. And then CTEurope, the new ultra-high resolution detector with a 0.33 slice thickness on the right. And you can appreciate the difference. And I think you've seen a lot of photon counting images during the Congress already, and you will see more. It's very close. And as you will see, we're also working on photon counting, but this is, I think, a great intermediate step in the direction of photon counting with conventional detectors. Another lung example, here, dynamic high-resolution imaging with, let me click on this movie. I don't know why it's not working. Anyways, this is supposed to be a dynamic scan as well. And this one as well, it's actually 4D information. So if the movie ran, you would see a beating pig heart. We don't have patient data yet, cardiac patient data yet. So we used the pig to show the ultra high resolution of this detector, still a conventional detector, as I said, but this is only a 2.75 millimeter coronary stent. And clearly, you can rule out in-stent restenosis very reliably with this increased ultra-high spatial resolution. Plus, you could even have the dynamic information at the same time because you're always covering the whole volume. Another musculoskeletal case, so you almost get down to the trabecular structure of the bone, and you definitely can see smaller fractures using the high spatial resolution. And here another inner ear, middle ear case. Spectral, Dual source is great, actually, because, as I said, you can refine the spectral separation of your system much better than with detector-based dual energy methods. So we use a tin filter for the 140 kV spectrum, 80 kV, and you get almost ideal spectral separation that enable also the most challenging spectral application. And we have the whole portfolio. I don't go through all of them. Monoenergetic images, of course, all kinds of material maps. And probably the most challenging one, bone marrow analysis using dual energy data. Again, for the sake of time, I have to skip quickly through it. Also, cardiac dual energy becomes possible using this system. And as I mentioned, this is probably the most challenging dual energy application so far. Dual energy bone marrow edema analysis. So here you need really excellent spectral quality of your data that you can currently only obtain using dual source approaches, not with detector-based methods, at least not with the quality you need for a robust analysis. Again, metal artifact reduction can also be done using dual energy here with this spinal metal fixation. Basically, you can nicely see how a tailored metal artifact reduction using spectral data can nicely eliminate metal artifacts. And this is probably, something that really only wide area detectors can do well, cardiac perfusion, because over a certain period of time, you need to repeatedly scan the whole organ. So this is really a big advantage of wide area detectors, that you can do excellent cardiac myocardial perfusion studies using such a system. But as I said, in parallel, we are also working on photon-counting detectors. But the detector is a very important component of a CT, but of course not the only important device in such. The tube matters, the system design matters, and as I mentioned, artificial intelligence has become very, very important, especially for these thin slices. You need really efficient noise reduction techniques that only AI can give you, so that you get a natural image impression, you don't add artifacts, and for that, really AI, tailored AI to the technology that you use, also in terms of image reconstruction, is almost mandatory. Otherwise, you will end up at high resolution, either at excessive doses or at very, very high image noise. And then the additional information doesn't help you. We also, in China, so far only, we introduced the first photon counting system. It's called UCT Ultima. And I just want to show you a couple of images to give you an impression where we are using photon counting detectors. Of course, the long-term vision is to include in such a system like CTEurope, which is a completely new system architecture, also photon counting detectors. But this is what we currently have as a system released in China already. And I think you know most of these images, just to give you an impression where we are currently. Again, fast moving structures at highest spatial resolution is always a special challenge. So this is why everybody shows these. And look at the resolution. You can see the individual stent struts and clearly rule out any restenosis inside such a stent. Also valves. The resolution, I think, here of this aortic valve, for example, or also the mitral valve, is almost incredible, with a slice thickness here of 0.2 millimeters compared to the 0.33 we currently have on the CTEurope conventional detector system. You also can get spectral information, of course, out of a photon counting detector that is one of the main promises of photon counting, that you always have also spectral information. So we are also on that system able to calculate iodine maps for cardiac electron density maps, effective C maps, like you're used to. High spatial resolution inner ear here, another step up in terms of spatial resolution, of course, compared to what I just showed you here. Eye structures, really optical nerves that can be nicely depicted with this higher spatial resolution neuro. So again,